Welcome to the final webinar in our series of climate change and the African food entrepreneur. This journey over this last 10 weeks has been a real voyage of discovery for me personally. It's been an introduction to topics that I only knew a little about. I have learnt new things. I have talked to new people and made new networks. And I'm really grateful because a webinar really does provide that opportunity. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you for joining us from across Europe and across Africa. Today is bringing everything together. We have been talking about a whole wide range of different subjects. We've been talking about systems level conversations through to which tree to plant. So, and that scale and scope has been, I think, really, really important. And today, what we're going to try to do is reflect upon that journey. What information has been important? What have we learned? What can we take away from this webinar and apply to our lives? Now, I'm going to disappear for a bit today because I don't want to do a huge amount of talking. And we've got an amazing person to introduce and reflect upon the session. I am delighted to introduce to you my good friend, Sarah Phang. Sarah is going to take us through the first part of today's webinar and talk about a reflection of the webinar series. Now, Sarah has participated in every session. She has devoured the PDF decks. She has been watching all of the recordings on our YouTube channel. So I can think of nobody better to do this. Now, Sarah is somebody who I've known for several months. And she's one of those rare people who you meet in life, who it's just like approaching a warm sun or a glowing candle, somebody who is so full of energy and inspiration. And Sarah has had an amazing journey to get to this point. She is somebody who originally is from Malaysia. It was important for us to bring a different voice to these conversations. But she has also studied in the UK. She has had a career in multinational food companies, working in Singapore, in the UK, and also in Switzerland. And now she's on a new phase of her journey. And she is working in an organization called IISD, International Institute for Sustainable Development, here in Geneva. But she's also passionate about sustainability and about change, to the extent where just recently she has launched her own gardening blog, focused on her own experiences about growing food in a small garden in Switzerland. So, Sarah, you are very, very welcome to the webinar today.
We tested it today, so it should be working. So let me set it up. First of all, thank you, Steve, for the amazing, amazing introduction. Very grateful for your kind words, and also very grateful to have met you and worked with John in the recent days. Can you now see my screen?
It is there. Yes, it's just on standard view.
Yep, I'm turning it now onto presenter view.
That is looking perfect. Thank you.
Excellent. So then I shall take over and kick off the 20-minute session that we're going to do to review the different topics. I mean, I must say, I have been incredibly impressed with the breadth and the depth of the knowledge. I don't know about you guys, but I'm watching the webinars, I'm getting excited, I'm re-watching the webinars, then I'm going through the decks and I'm re-watching them again. And, you know, each slide is so packed full of information that if you start to dissect the topics, you will realize how much is there in each speaker's deck, and then in each day, and then in the whole series of 10 webinars. So what we really want to do today is to take you through a summary of all the various different topics, because yes, you would have heard of the topics before, you've been through the webinars, and maybe you've even done your own research and reading. But repetition is the mother of all skills. And it is amazing now to be able to see them all together and to go through the topics again, right? To reflect on what you've learned, but also to capture the subjects that have piqued your interest, that have gotten your attention. Maybe you have a solution that you want to solve, so a pressing solution that you want to solve right now, or maybe you are someone that's looking for an opportunity to figure out where do you want to start your agripreneurship journey. So we are going to cover a lot of topics, but I invite you to really try and focus your mind, right? To try and say, okay, these are interesting, but these are the ones that I want to develop further. And just remember that thought and remember to do that as we go along this journey of reviewing the topics, because at the end today, we're going to ask you to do an exercise that will require you to bring up some of those reflections, because we want you to leave today's webinar and today's session with an actionable item, a small thing that you can start to do to build momentum on, to lead you on to the next thing. So that's really, really important. All right, so now enough of me talking about that. Let's dive into the topics. So you see here 8 bubbles, and these are the 8 topics that we've gone into, and we will go into them one by one, and we will look at the key topics that we have discussed in this webinar series. So we start with food systems. In food systems, we've heard some amazing things. We've heard about, we've heard from Oyobami and Martin. We've heard about the food value chain. So you know that there are various different actors in the food system. And what is a food value chain? You've got something where it's produced right all the way until where it's consumed, with various different steps in between and various different value steps. You know, each step has a value addition and a purpose. We've heard about climate resilient supply chain management. So what is a supply chain? And, you know, again, the different steps and why is it important to be climate resilient because of what we're going through now. We've understood from Oyobami her business, which is on weather watches and alerts, and how that's really important for the farmers to manage their harvest and to manage the growing season. We've heard some interesting examples. One very interesting example to me on the black soldier fly from Martin on circular animal feed. So he's devised a way to take food waste to transform it into a valuable product that is animal feed, and that feeds into nutrient circular economy. Then we visited carbon. So, okay, what is carbon? There is this thing about adopting lower carbon practices. So what is this about? So in the supply chain, right, when one is supplying raw materials to a particular manufacturer or particular buyer, it is now more and more and increasingly important to switch into lower carbon practices, because ultimately these practices will deliver a product that is more ecological and maybe socially sustainable as well in the supply chain. And this is getting more and more desirable, and the demand for this is just going to go up and up and up over the years. So this is, in a way, how do I say, the other way. So the other way of tapping into carbon credits. So there's 2 ways of tapping into carbon credits, if you remember from the presentation. One is directly from farmer generation. So you're growing trees and you're planting trees to absorb the carbon. And the other way is to work within the supply chain, within this, as we call the scope tree, if you remember from the presentation, and that is adopting lower carbon practices. Then we went on to talk about the non-agricultural woody biomass. So the opportunity to aggregate farmer groups. So who are the people that are actually growing this stuff and are actually cultivating this? They are the farmers. So they are cultivating the woody biomass that is then capturing the carbon from the atmosphere and sequestrating it into the ground. And the opportunity here is to aggregate these farmer groups. If you remember in that session, they talked with Rabobank, and I think the program was called ACORN, and it was really trying to give and I remember they were saying about giving back 80% of the price of carbon back to farmers. So that is highly, highly exciting. And it's a huge opportunity. I was really jumping out of my seat when I was hearing that. I was like, yes, this is excellent. And just understanding 80% of that value is going back to the farmers. And also, if you remember, I think the guy from Rabobank said that the price of carbon, they actually bid for a higher price of carbon per ton than what they originally anticipated. So that is amazing news, and a huge portion is that going back to the farmers. So this is, I think, such an exciting, important, and critical task, job for somebody to do, because the potential of our soils to sequester carbon is huge, and the rewards of reforesting, of bringing back plants, bringing back trees, and bringing back roots into the soil and the system is immense. We have to do it. So I'm really excited for this opportunity. And then there's the transparency for farmers on credit. So if you remember, you talked about, yes, that there is this huge chunk going back to farmers, but also digital payments. So we live in an era now where we can ensure that payments go direct to farmers and they don't go through that many intermediaries. And to have digital technologies these days to be able to make it traceable and to make it feasible, it's really an amazing time that we're living in. So I just wanted to remind you of that. So enough about carbon, let's go into soil. This is my favorite subject. So I tried to restrain myself from putting in too much information. We talked about soil fertility management, because as a farmer, what is your biggest asset? It is soil. So healthy soil, understanding what on earth is fertility management. In Africa at the moment, there is a net negative balance of nutrients in the soil throughout the sub-Saharan Africa. I just read a paper on that yesterday. And why is that? Because the crops are extracting out a lot of nutrients from the soil, but there are not enough inputs. And inputs doesn't just mean fertilizers. As we heard from the webinars, it's also in organic form, in the manure form, in crop residues, and really understanding and maintaining that balance to fix soil acidity and avoid soil acidity. So there are many, many techniques and tools out there for soil fertility management. And it's about how do we get that to the farmers. So, you know, you lot that are attending this webinar here, you are amazing. You have made your way into this webinar and you're now thinking, okay, what can I do, you know, to be able to then bring this knowledge to your community, to your farming community. That is amazing. So the technologies are there, but how do we make that connection into the farming community on soil fertility management? Soil data and assessments, really important to understand what is our starting point, and therefore what do we do to fix the issues that we're having. So if it's, say, soil acidity again, what actually is the type of soil? Therefore, what kind of lime maybe, or other amendments that I can put in, and therefore how much do I put in? It's really important to understand the starting point of your soil. And you know, there are now services out there for assessments and for soil data collection. So, and maps, you know, even I saw some maps as recent as last year, and you know, mapping the entire Burundi, Rwanda, Kenya. So there are information out there. Adding soil organic matter, we've talked about that, farmyard manure, high quality compost creation. I can't stress enough about this, because soil health is about soil biology. Okay, it's about many things, but soil biology is one of the big factors, and it was touched upon in this webinar. And a good way of introducing soil biology is through high quality compost creation. And it's about recycling. So we started to talk about circularity before, nutrient circularity. Compost creation is bringing it all together, is taking that waste nutrients, creating a quality product that has good biology, reintroducing that into the soil to allow the biology to do its work, to extract the nutrients out of the minerals, to break down the nutrients, to make it into a plant available form, to reduce the inputs that you may need to put, or a farmer needs to put in on his land to maintain the nutrient balance. So this is such an interesting business opportunity, if I could say that, a venture that somebody could go into to bring back high quality biology into the soil. Water management, highly important to prevent erosion control, conservation agricultural practices. If we keep the soil in a healthy form and we keep the soil in a good structure, so many wonderful things can happen. Erosion can be prevented, loss of soil, therefore loss of nutrients can be prevented, better water infiltration into the water can reach the roots of the plant. So there are so many things that are interrelated, interconnected. Integrated crop, livestock, fisheries, aquaculture, forestry. You see how all of these elements come together and work in a symbiotic way and enhance each other. Promote indigenous knowledge. I think this is amazing because there is so much knowledge in the older generation, in the indigenous people that learn how to, what's the word that I'm looking for? Custodians of the land, right? How to protect the land and how to take care of the land. So I think it's really important to do that. We talked about enhancing extension services. I think this is another area where there's a lot of opportunities. How do you make that link between the research and the knowledge and to the farmers, organic farmer with direct market access? Okay, I need to restrict myself because I can talk a lot for this topic. Now we go into water. So let's have a look. So we come into water. We talked about smart technologies for water efficiency, because it's really important to understand where water is used properly, where water is wasted, because water is such an important resource, especially, I mean, you guys know this, especially in Africa. We talked about innovative finance to enable access to the technologies and the services around water. Drip irrigation, how do you get water efficiently to your plants? It's been shown that you can use 50% less water or even more than the traditional irrigation method. So that is really, really exciting. Social enterprise for water sanitation. We heard from one of the speakers, I believe his name is Olivier, right? How he treated water in Burundi to help with also public health problems, with the health issue over there, and to give access to a greater quality of life and therefore greater access to maybe education, to better standards of living through water sanitation. And we talked about healthy soil as a water filtration tool because, as I said before, healthy soil has a structure like a sponge. So if you put dirty water through it, it will filter through its rocks, through its biomass, and all. It will filter, and the water coming out on the other end will be clean and going into the groundwater table and coming up ultimately into the lakes, into the rivers, into the streams. So healthy soil also acts as a water filtration tool, and water is super, super important for fertility and for life in general. Also, it's a greenhouse gas, but that's a completely different topic for a different day. So we come now into the exciting topic of agroforestry. Agroforestry, what is that? It's about having trees together with the crops in the same system. So we talk about intercropping. Steve himself gave an amazing deck, an amazing slide on so many examples of intercropping. Yes, so go and visit that slide because it's got all the examples there, or a lot of examples there. Then we talked about shade trees. It's really important to have a system that is multi-tiered to provide shade where it's needed for different crops, such as coffee, for example, that require some shade in order to have a good yield. We talked about identifying indigenous trees for the region to know what trees to plant. So as Steve mentioned at the start of this webinar, we went from big down to, hey, what type of trees, We talked about agroforestry as a way to provide a diversity of income, because within agroforestry, you not just have one crop, you'll be able to have multiple crops, 2, maybe even more, maturing at different times. And so the income stream coming in is more stable and higher. And also, of course, with more diversity, you're able to buffer, and be more resilient to any of the risks that you may face, price fluctuations, weather fluctuations. So it is all in all a better system. Then we talked about direct trade. How do we make this directly accessible to the market? Again, water conservation. Because of the trees, there is this evapotranspiration happening, creating this microclimate and allowing for the water cycle to function and allowing for rain in the area. So evapotranspiration is so important, and it's also so important for temperature control, because this evapotranspiration takes the temperature in that immediate space down. So it's really important. Filters runoff, okay, we talked about that already in terms of the soil sponge. Reduces water pollution, absolutely, because with the trees and the tree roots, you know, it stops runoff, it stops erosion control here. And we talked about agro-silvopasture, which is also introducing livestock and animals into that system to bring it to the next level to have even more benefits. All right, then we talk about regenerative agriculture, and we talked about the 5 principles. Well, John talked about this. He talked about soil health, maximizing the microorganism population in the soil. So and he talked about the 5 principles, which are these: minimizing soil disturbances, so minimum till or no till, minimizing the use of chemical inputs, maximizing biodiversity, because it's so important. Every organism plays a role in this complex system. Soil cover, to avoid too much evaporation of the soil, loss of water, but also maybe crusting and creating, you know, it creates a barrier for the water to go through. And adapting, this is super important, adapting to the local environment is super important to make sure that the practices that are selected fits the local context, based on what is happening around, what is the weather, what is the soil, what are the different plants that are growing around the area. Then we talked about natural systems. We talked about introducing grazing animals, the amount of benefits of this nutrient cycling that, you know, they poo and it goes back in the soil, but also the effect of their hooves on the soil, breaking up maybe the soil and also putting in some of this biomass into the soil. We talked about solar energy and how that is the source of life, honestly, and that is a form of energy, not just, you know, converting it into like electricity, but also solar energy on the plants as they do photosynthesis and bringing that source of energy into the system. We talked about diverse crops and animals, no monoculture. Okay, so you can have intercropping, you can have many crops in the same area. Okay, and then restoring carbon and water cycles, because it is super important that these are functioning well, so that you have less inputs, less need for interfering. When something is going wrong, if the system and the cycle is functioning properly, it will correct itself and it will find a way to rebalance itself. But if the cycle is broken, then we as humans need to come in and intervene. I have to put some fertilizer, I have to, I don't know, put some lime, I have to put this, I have to have this input, I have to control that. But if the cycle is working properly, with the help of the microorganisms in the soil, for example, and a good soil structure, for example, then it will correct itself. And then finally, we talked about shade trees, which we already talked about in agroforestry. Processing and value addition. So now you have the raw materials, and then through processing, we can add even more value to the raw materials that we've got here. So we talked about local processing of raw materials. Why send the raw materials away to be processed? Raw materials could be your cereal crops, could be your fruits, could be wood, anything like that. Why send it away to be processed? Let's try and process it locally where it is needed, where it is used, even if it's on a smaller scale. We talked about, Marcus was one of the speakers, and he gave an example of the mobile processing unit. So that's very interesting. You say, but I need a lot of capital to set up this huge factory. No, look, there is an example of a mobile processing unit now. Then we talked about how that would create local employment, that would give more access to the market to sell your produce, that will help with local skills training and empowerment. Then we talked about food safety, the importance of processing in ensuring that there is a high quality of food safety for the health of the people. We talked about reducing food waste and loss. This is so important because waste are generated everywhere along a process step, at the end of the process step, just after the start of the process step, how can we find where waste is happening? Because waste, we have to change our mindset. Waste is an opportunity. Waste is not just waste. If you are able to take waste, then you're able to add value to it by transforming it into something useful. That is an opportunity. That's an opportunity for the person. That's an opportunity for the community. That's an opportunity for the planet, for the environment, because we are reducing waste. We're reducing, say, methane in the fermentation of that, and we're making it a valuable commodity and a valuable product now for something else. So I love the topic of reducing waste and loss. Huge opportunity. We talked about making food more accessible, making food more convenient to enhance food security, enhance nutrition, and finally making things more valuable. Last topic, because I may be running out of time now, packaging. So we talked about collecting and recycling packaging. We got to make sure that packaging are easy to collect. So how can you design something where there is an incentive or where it's easy to collect? If your packaging is all in tiny bits, how can you make sure that this packaging doesn't disappear out into the environment and promote littering, for example? It gets thrown everywhere because it's so small, it flies everywhere. So how do you design your packaging for collection and for recycling? Let's talk about circularity again, and this time circularity in materials, not just circularity in nutrients, circularity in materials. How do we make sure that these goes round and round again? I mean, packaging, as much as we like it or don't like it, it is important, right? To prevent food spoilage and food loss and food waste. So how can we make sure that it stays within a circular model and gets recycled, reused, and that? The economic impact and value on waste streams. So I've already touched on that. All right, so now we have covered all the 8 topics, and I want to touch on another thing that is really interesting. So as agripreneurs, you find solutions to the problem, right? But why then do we need to think about all these different 8 elements and the elements within the 8 elements? There's so much, right? Why do I have to bother myself thinking about all of this, right? I just want to solve a problem. There is a problem there, and I just want to find a solution. I'm an agripreneur. That's what I do. All right. So consider this. I want to bring you through a little model because it explains why you should maybe think about the factors and the interconnectedness of it all. So let's zoom in. I'm going to use an example to make it more understandable. Okay, so if you look at this iceberg, it is a big iceberg, and then there is a water level here. There is a water level here because everything under the water level you cannot see. Everything above the water level we see. So an event has happened. I'm just going to take an example here. This is completely made up, okay? But an event that has happened. There is not enough feed for my chickens or my pigs, and I am a livestock farmer. And this is the event that's happened. This is the event that I can see. So it's above water in the iceberg. I can see. Oh, so what normally would somebody do? Oh, I don't have enough food. Okay, maybe I sell some of my chickens and some of my pigs so that I can get some money to feed the rest of the livestock. Maybe, or maybe instead of buying this high quality feed, I will feed them lower quality food. Maybe it's like the waste from the farm next door or the farm down the road or somewhere that I can find waste fibers or waste. And this waste fibers obviously are not as nutritious as the high quality feed, but hey, it's expensive, and so that's all I can do. So that's on the event side. Now then you think, okay, well, that event is happening, but actually what is causing this event to happen? Why do I have not enough food? Because the prices of the animal feed has been increasing over time, because there is a limited supply, both locally and from imports of the feed. So you say, okay, interesting. The event is it started off because I didn't have enough food for my livestock. But when I think deeper, why is it that I don't have enough? Because the prices are going up. Then if I think deeper again, why are the prices going up? Because there is a supply chain disruption locally in my area. There is high fertilizer costs and high input costs. So actually what is coming out of the farms are less and less, and it's getting more and more expensive. it costs more to import things. There's logistical disruptions. You know, most of the feed that I'm usually buying is imported. So there's a high dependence on imported feed. And furthermore, because eating chickens and pork is becoming more and more popular in my area, therefore the government is supporting more and more livestock farming businesses. I have more competition to buy this feed. So then I said, okay, interesting. Then also people say that, well, you know, we are kind of stuck now, you know, we don't have enough feed, but we're kind of stuck because it is difficult to produce feed locally, because the mindset and the mentality is that there is a high cost of machines and lack of knowledge to produce this good quality food. So then I have to keep buying it. So now when you look at the initial problem of I don't have enough food to feed my pigs and my chickens, and you say, how can I find a solution to this? Actually, maybe the solution is not just to sell part of your herd, part of your some chickens or some pigs, and maybe the solution is not just to switch to lower income feed. Then you say, okay, maybe the solution is I just need to have more income, I just need to have more money. But even if you have more income, if the prices keep going up, you're still insane. If you increase your income by 20%, but the prices go up by 50%, you're still stuck with not enough feed. So the point that I'm trying to make is, let's look at finding the solutions in the design level, in the underlying structures, instead of reacting to the event that you're seeing is happening. Okay, Sarah, well, what do you mean by that? So if you are a farmer of this livestock, and you say, hey, what is a different way that I can think about now with this understanding and with this knowledge to solve this problem? I can produce feed on my farm. For example, with the black soldier fly, I heard that Martin is selling kits now. He has these kits where you can take waste food, maybe from the markets or from farms or from household, and you can add the larvae and they transform it into a highly nutritious feed for the livestock. So this is a different way you can think about, instead of saying I need to buy more, I need to buy cheaper feed, or I need to sell some of my herd. So this is one way. Then if you are an entrepreneur that is not a farmer, and you say, oh, I want to find a way how I can tap into this problem to give them a good solution for my community, you can produce feed from the cane fibers left from sugar processing, for example. So you find where there is a waste stream, you can valorize that, you can add value onto it, and you can create feed from that. And then finally, as we saw from the example of Marcus, if you already have a business, let's say if you have a processing business, say, oh, I have a value stream that is waste at the moment. So for example, the tapioca fiber left from the cassava root, I should have said tapioca root. Anyway, I think it's the same thing. Cassava root in the starch factory, the fiber that's left, that is a waste stream, but actually that can now be transformed into animal feed for the livestock locally. So again, it's not imported, it's not dependent on the price of fertilizer, because it's already a waste stream anyway. So if you can find a way to add value to that and transform it, then that will be another opportunity. So I hope that this iceberg model is helping you think about, oh, am I just reacting to the problem as I see it? Maybe if I think deeper down the layers, what happened? What are the patterns that are causing this to happen? What are some of the things that are influencing this pattern? And you start to work on that level, on the design level, you may be able to come up with different solutions and better solutions that include environmental and also social and also organizational aspects into your business model that then will make it more resilient and future-proof, more future-proof. So I hope that I've added value to you today. And you've enjoyed the presentation. And I thank you very much for your time. And I hand you back to Steve now. Thank you, everybody.
See what I mean, everybody? Energy, passion, a real light in this universe. Sarah, thank you so much. That was
Thank you.
amazing in terms of managing to capture everything that we've been talking about over the last 9 weeks. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve.
While I get my slides sorted, Sarah, would you just like to give your gardening blog a very quick plug?
Yes, I completely forgot to put a slide on this. So the blog is called Our Together Garden. We are on Facebook, we're on Instagram. Actually, I'm going to write it in the chat. It's called Our Together Garden. And Our Together Garden. The moment on Facebook, I checked this morning, we have 10,500 followers. I don't know how we got there. It was just one of those things that I said, look, I need to do something. I need to talk about soil health. I need to encourage my peers to understand growing food is not something for old people. Growing food is not something for my granddad. You know, growing food is really cool because it gives you food security. It helps you understand how food is produced. It helps us figure out what we can change. So we started this about 2.5 months ago. And yeah, on Facebook now we're at 10,500 followers. I don't remember the numbers for Instagram, it's much lower. And we're also on TikTok. So yeah, so if you want to have some funny videos, follow our journey, but also, you know, get in the topic of food systems and food systems change, then I thank you so much for following us.
And the name of the blog again is?
It's the Our Together Garden.
And it's available on?
Facebook, Instagram, TikTok.
Perfect. Sarah, thank you again.
Thank you. Bye for now. I'll turn off my camera.
Perfect. What I would like you to do is actually put into those boxes, think of the sessions that Sarah has just been talking about so eloquently. So there were sessions about soil and carbon and water and agroforestry and packaging and circular economy and processing and value addition, food systems. And that was from memory. And what I would like you to do is just think about which were the 3 most important ones for you. And what will happen is that when you type in your answers and you submit those, they'll come up magically onto the screen, as I hope they are doing. Yeah, perfect. Just checking with Jade there. And this is a word cloud. So the one that comes up most will be the one that has been most important to people. And this is obviously quite important for us to know and learn from, so that we can start having a better understanding of the impact of this series. So it's great to see that people are starting to put some words into the cloud. I'm going to let it run for just another minute. So if you're going to do it, be quick. And we have got so far, I think, equal level of stuff. Oh, circular economy is starting to become quite an important topic. It's overtaken soil. This is really exciting. We've got 19 answers so far. So this is really good. I'm just going to let it run for a little bit longer. Regenerative agriculture is coming through. This is so exciting. I've never actually used this as a facilitation tool before, but I can see that a lot of different subjects have been really, really important. And it is really, really great that things such as circular economy, regenerative agriculture, and agroforestry seem to be the 3 key topics that have been coming through here, as well as soil. So thank you for that. What I'm going to, we've just got a couple more there. As I say, this is very, very, very exciting to me, which is very sad of me, I'm sure. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop. And I'm going to go on to the next slide. Okay. So yeah, so I think the winner is circular economy. We've got 44 answers now. I'm glad to see that soil has been coming through as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close the Mentimeter, okay? We'll finish that section, but it's really exciting and more answers are coming through all the time. But, you know, it seems that everybody has thought that at least one of the sessions has been really good. I see carbon, I see value addition, I see recycling, I see food safety and circularity and food systems and costs and waste management and food chains. And wow, we really did cover a huge amount in this series. So thank you for your answers on Mentimeter. Your answers will be recorded and we'll make sure that that is embedded into the deck. What I would like to do now, just one other quick thing, is I'm going to launch a poll. And this is within Zoom. So please come back to Zoom as you hopefully have done already. I want you to think now about what has been most important to you in terms of a strategy. One of the things that we've been talking about throughout this course, this webinar series, is what do we do about climate change? And in terms of our businesses and communities, what is the most important? Is it to you? Is it about adapting to climate change? Is it about mitigating? So trying to bring in ways of doing business or living in communities that can actually slow climate change down? Or is it about building resilience, enabling us to become stronger in the face of climate change and being able to bring in strategies within our communities that can protect us against things such as soil erosion and water loss and so on? So please, we've got 8 people. I'd like to get up to about 15, 16 maybe of answers here. So let's give it for 30 seconds more. We've got a lot more answers coming through. And this obviously will be recorded as well and used by ourselves in terms of understanding better what people's needs are as we move forwards. But I see right now we've got 12 people answered. So thank you. A few more, please, come on. But I see that resilience is one of the key issues here. And that currently 58% of people think that building resilience in their businesses and their communities is the important way forwards. So I think we'll close it there. 12 people answered. Thank you very much. And the winning idea is that we need to build resilience. So thank you for that. So there you go. You can see the answers, hopefully. Okay, so what I would like to do now, very conscious of time, but I did approach some people who've been participating to ask if they would like to say a few words. And I believe that we have got Joyce and Isaac online. And if anybody else would perhaps like to say a few words, please raise your hand and I will invite you to talk. But I will go to Isaac first.
Okay,
Isaac.
Yes, thank you very much, Steve. I've unmuted myself. Can you hear me?
You're coming through very clear. Thank you. You've been a really powerful participant throughout the entire series. And
yes.
I'd be really grateful if you could just say a few words about your perceptions on this webinar series and the potential impact. And I think it's fair to say, Isaac, that you are in Zimbabwe?
Yes, I'm in Zimbabwe, in the middle of Zimbabwe, called Masvingo.
Perfect. So what would you like to share with us, Isaac?
Right. Thank you, Steve. Just really to thank you and your team, John and the others. I think it's Anne and Joyce, for the wonderful work that you're putting into this series. I think it's really been very powerful, not just very informative, but also entertaining. And right from the start, when we started on the 11th with our food systems, up to I think it was last week when we dealt with packaging. I think those are the two that sort of stood out for me. But what came out, especially for these two, is the fact that people were taking waste and reticulating it to other products, and also, waste in the form of plastic as well. And really that when we start doing these innovations, especially on food or any product, anything for that matter, I think it's really, really important to look at the entire value chain, so that something that we call an innovation today, through our entrepreneurial spirit, does not really end up as something that maybe 100 years later, the problem that we're having with plastics at the moment, we will again really begin to condemn. I learned new things, maybe just to quickly go through them. I don't want to take a lot of time. Industrial composting, I think that's an opportunity. And I really would want to thank Sarah, Phang, really, because I think she really took the words out of my mouth. And something that she said was, waste is an opportunity. And I think that's really, really important. For me, waste is important in the sense that I really hate littering, and anything that can take litter out of the environment is quite important, as we saw with Martin tenure. Although I've got, I would really want to have further discussion with Martin on a number of issues, and also with the guys that we talked about taka plastics. We talked about regenerative agriculture, drip irrigation, also very important, the circular economy, agroforestry. And yeah, I think those are really things that stood out for me, and really want to thank Steve and his team. And maybe just to continue these kind of things on a greater scale. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much for your kind words there, Isaac. And for me, I really do agree with you. One of the key things for us that we wanted to bring into this webinar is not just this kind of systems level understanding from quite a high level of theoretical, but also bringing in practical knowledge from people who are actually utilizing skills and working within these areas in terms of their businesses. So whether it's Marcus, who is processing cassava in South Africa, or whether it's Peter at Taka Plastics in Uganda, recycling plastic waste, that real world experience of actually making a difference, creating jobs, is really, really important. So thank you, Isaac.
Thank you very much, Steve, and your team.
If I can go, I think we have got Joyce online from Zambia. Joyce, are you there? Joyce, are you there?
Yes, I'm around. Good morning, everyone.
Mulibwanji.
Tiri bueno. Mulibwanji uko.
How are you today, Joyce?
Very, very fine. Thank you.
What would you like to share?
Yes, Stephen, thank you for this opportunity. Just like the previous speaker said, the series of webinars has just been top-notch. I've enjoyed every one of them. I've attended almost all of them. The ones that I missed, definitely I went back and then I had to listen to them. The knowledge that we have gained has just been immense. It has been impactful. And even up to the last minute where Sarah has just wrapped it up, we continue to learn from that. I've enjoyed the last presentation where she said the systemic thinking. Oh my God, it has just been very small presentation, but very impactful. So thank you for all these lessons that you've given us. And also thank you, Agripreneurship Alliance team, for all these series of webinars that you've put up. So before I started listening to these webinars or watching them, there was a call, a proposal for us to write research presentations. I ignored that proposal because I thought, I don't have enough knowledge. And I think when you want to do a research about climate change, it involves a lot of equipment, a lot of technology. I said, I think this is too much. It's for those seasoned researchers who can do it. So when I started attending this series of webinars, I realized that, there are a lot of opportunities that you brought up. You don't really have to start from the very, very top notch. Even simple research can fit in this climate change research. I said, I missed. So I'll be on the lookout for more research proposals, and I'm going to take it up and run with it. You have really taught us a lot. I've developed a very good knowledge base. And being a teacher, being a lecturer, I've just made a decision that I'll impart this knowledge also to my students. Climate smart agriculture, circular economy, you can infuse it in any sector that you are teaching. So for me, I've just made a decision that definitely the young ones are going to gain this knowledge from me, so that when they go in the field, they go in society, they are going to make a difference also from this knowledge. So our role as teachers definitely is going to impart the skills to help the student learn how to identify problems. You already brought out important information. There are no jobs around in Africa. Yeah. So we have to teach these students now to identify problems in society, and then from the problems, they come up with innovative solutions. They start even earning a living from these solutions. You've really, really taught us a lot. And this is going to go a long way also to me, to be being a researcher. I'm going to start doing research. The young ones are also going to learn, and also we'll be mentoring them how to become also the problem solvers and also the change agents in society. So thank you very much to the whole team. I appreciate it.
Joyce, thank you so much for your really kind words there. For speaking for myself, one of the key things that I wanted to do with this webinar is to inform and inspire. And from your words there, it sounds like our job has been done. And so thank you so much. I will move on. I don't think anybody else has raised their hands. And it is approaching the top of the hour. And as you know, we do like to try and keep on time in all of this work that we do. I haven't done a lot of additional resources this time. What I would like to plug is that, as everybody will know, we have been recording these webinars and putting them onto our YouTube channel for posterity. And so if you would like to go back and review any of the webinars that we've had, use them with students, use them to inspire your business, please, they are available. Now, the easiest way to find them is go to YouTube and search for Agripreneurship Alliance. When you receive the deck in the email in the next couple of days, we also include a link to the YouTube channel as well. And Jade, could you possibly put the YouTube link into the chat, please? So just so that everybody can access it directly. And really, it goes to conclusions. And what I have said already is that we wanted to inspire and inform, and really start introducing the topics around climate change and what it means to a young African food entrepreneur. Now, I just want to thank everybody who's been involved in this. I want to thank everybody who's participated. I want to thank all of our great speakers, and I want to thank all of the great presenters who've come forwards. I see that Sarah has raised her hand. Sarah, do you want to say something?
Yeah, just one last reflection. It's just been incredible hearing also Joyce and Isaac's reflection. It's so inspirational. And I remember a conversation as I was listening to that. I remember a conversation that I had very, very recently, which was with an award-winning humanitarian. I didn't even know who she was, so I'm so sorry for that. And she said, pick a cause. Pick a cause. There are so many out there. Pick a cause and go for it. Because maybe right now we may not see what is the immediate next, the end goal or how it's going to turn out. But as we just take steps after steps after steps, we pick a cause, we get good at it, we learn, we research, and we get better. And with these resources that you shared, it's incredible. The network and the knowledge shared. There are information out there, just as Joyce reflected as well. So pick something, go deep into it, try and go for it. And I'm sure with the passion of everybody, you know, things will happen and things will change. And we will learn from it and we will make a difference. So thank you very much, Steve, for what you're doing. And that was what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Sarah. And I just add to that, which is we are in charge of our own destinies. We are the agents of change for our own lives. And so the choices that we make will impact our businesses, our families, our friends, our communities. The last word, okay, I've got to say thank you to Econ for enabling this session of webinars to happen. But I just wanted to use somebody else's words to finish this series off, okay? And this has come from another friend who's been a participant in this webinar series from Zambia. And Rebecca wrote, I thank the Agripreneurship Alliance for the wonderful presenters for the insightful and exciting knowledge shared with us. The content was very relevant and had practical applications to my activities as a farmer, with various insights of how to implement some of the climate smart agriculture innovations or solutions. More importantly, I was intrigued by youth innovators who are doing great things and impacting their societies. With your permission, I will use the content of the video site to inspire the crop of upcoming agricultural graduates by exposing them to CSA concepts and innovations and solutions. This will enrich the learning experience of my students, and I am convinced that they will be inspired by the various presentations, especially by their fellow youths. Consequently, it will have a multiplier effect on the impact of these webinars in the future. Thank you once again for the opportunity to participate in these webinars. Thank you everybody for joining these webinars. I hope that you are able to continue using the resource that is available on our website. And please do, if at any time you have any questions or you would like to find out more about the work that we do, please do contact either myself here in Switzerland or John in Uganda. Thank you, everybody. I hope you have a pleasant summer and best of fortune for the future. Goodbye. Thank you.